Welcome to Be Well with MS podcast series, where I and expert guests discuss science and science-based tools for everyday life to preserve brain health and quality of life living with MS. I'm Dr. Agnes Trokjane, neurologist, researcher, innovator at Torbay and South Devon NHS Foundation Trust in the UK. So today I'm joined by my guest, Matthew Sweet. Matthew is the health and wellness professional who believes in the connection between the mind, body, and soul. Using his qualifications and expertise as a personal trainer and a correctional exercise specialist, clients come to him for movement and lifestyle support. These teachings are supported today with an awareness that our minds are equal importance than just losing weight, getting fitter, and living healthier. Matthew runs an evolving business model, Brave Body Fitness, which he started in 2018 to meet the needs of people who struggled with the space of a gym or finding confidence to start living healthier. Besides that, Matthew is qualified as a Mindfulness Now teacher. Matthew has discovered mindfulness for his personal issues. Mindfulness helped Matthew to overcome PTSD and imbalances in his life and improve well-being. Today he has a great passion to teach others. Matthew calls the breath the doctor within and sleep as the hospital within all us. Both practices keep us healthy in our mind, body, and soul. So, welcome, Matthew, to this podcast.
Thank you very much, and I'm very pleased to be here.
Well, thank you for joining the call. I'm very excited, and I just want to say that it was very extraordinary the way we met. Just want to highlight that at the beginning. I remember you have chaired the Mindfulness Now teachers drop-in session and the Oxford Mindfulness Now program. And I was stunned by your lead of the imaginary guided mountain meditation. It was at the right time and right place for me. And, you know, when we can't travel in pandemic, so having a beautiful imaginary things in our lives is very, very nourishing. And I think, Matthew, if you're okay, I'm going to ask you to actually guide us today and go through the beautiful mountain journey later today during our consultation and interview, if that's okay. So I have obviously some questions that I would like to ask, if that's okay with you, Matthew.
It is, yes. It's been my pleasure to answer them for you.
So my first question is an open question, and I would like to know, how do you think people are affected by COVID-19 pandemically, emotionally, let's say, how they are dealing with it? And is there any regular pattern that you see when you meet people and talk to them?
It is a question that connects us all during this difficult time. If I had to pick one way to describe it for us all, it feels like overwhelm. I think this in modern history is the first time that collectively we've been all together sharing the same experience, and it feels very overwhelming.
Absolutely. And is there any sort of regular attitude or behavior that you see people are being exposed? Are they worried, or they are opposite? Maybe they have more time for themselves?
Yeah, it's an interesting society that we're currently living in. The clients that I speak to and people that engage in conversation with me over this topic seems to be two broad understandings on how to manage life right now. It's those that are actually enjoying taking time for themselves, the busy schedule of sleep and work, the striving, and the pushing oneself further into being closer to their goals or ambitions. It seems to be on the back burner, on hold, and they're taking time to be with oneself. So what's interesting on the other side of that is it's too much time for the other people, the other type of person that feels that they're escaping from the constant news stream, the fear, and the other parts that contribute to more challenging mental health situations. Those are the people that I reach out to more often than not.
They start worrying, I guess. It's time for yourself. And do we know how to be with ourselves? That's That's a challenge, isn't it, for some people?
Yeah, I agree.
So what are the tips for people to follow to stay well?
I think the best tip that I can give is centered around, as you beautifully put it in that wonderful introduction, about using the breath and having that as the doctor within. For most people, beginners or even experienced, or those that have used breath throughout, say, exercise or wellness or meditation or yoga, have some sort of understanding. But I think what's happening now is that it's a really key indicator as to what's happening within our nervous system that we can pay attention to care for ourselves.
I guess by default, we are all going into this sort of a fight or flight mode, and it's been regulated by our brainstem, by our brain, which we may be aware, but not necessarily all activities within us. We have a full awareness, and I think that as a brainstem starts, wiring and producing a lot of electricity, because brain is an organ, is an electric organ, and it's very much linked to our emotional brain, which is a limbic system. And this limbic system, or part of the brain, a structure in the middle of the brain, is always considering what is good and what is bad. It's our judgmental structure that we always think about, should I be here? Should I be doing this? And you get an internal dialogue. And then by cultivating the mindfulness and meditation, you're actually working on the higher brain regulation part, which is the prefrontal cortex. It's right behind the forehead. And this part of the brain sends and receives the messages that guide us and guides our lives. And I think that practicing meditation and mindfulness, exactly what it does, it trains the part of the brain that is responsible for the emotions and the higher cognition that helps us to be present in that moment, to be aware of our body needs, and to be much happier once you are upskilled that technique. So moving on to sort of another part of our interview, what are the simple attitudes that people should cultivate in pandemic?
I really thank you for that explanation, the neurology of how we are managing ourselves, because I find personally, as well as professionally, that the attitude is around our sensory self. And there's the 7 attitudes that John Kabat-Zinn has mentioned in his MBSR work, and they've been put into other contemporary types of mindfulness practice in the MBCT practices. And these, for the latter stages of the 20th century, were key empirical studies around how the brain works, and the science is there to suggest that, as you put it, is that we can adapt and cultivate different habits. And I think, without getting too into the technical side of things, from my perspective, I'm finding there's a real passion within me to work within the senses. So in each of these experiences in COVID, that there is a way to use the sight, taste, smell, sound, and touch within a moment, a brief millisecond, a gentle something in being human right now. And that, to me, is a simple change to the doing, the autopilot, and also spending the briefest, or depending on how much time you have, in the being. And that, I feel personally that being is the simplest attitude that we can look to cultivate during this time.
I guess it's the hardest one, to be, go out of your fixing mode and doing mode into more sort of a just being, because our minds are so busy, and it continuously produces number of thoughts that, not necessarily they are true, they are not facts. We got to the thinking process, we got emotion attached. And again, that sort of strikes the body reactions. Our blood pressure goes up, our pulse goes up. So actually, all the sort of the brain that is responsible for the emotions and thinking, it actually changes our physiology. It changes the way the hormones are being released, and all the other reactions that we don't think much throughout the day, but it does exist, and it does highly sort of influence the body reactions. And I think mindfulness perhaps helps to modify our reactions. We become more responding rather than reacting to things. So moving towards why people should practice mindfulness. I get sometimes from the people with MS that I'm looking after, or neurology patients, that they tell me that, mindfulness and meditation is not for me. How would you respond, Matthew, to that sort of a statement to people, and why people should still pursue and try to sort of implement some mindful attitudes or some sort of a formal or informal behaviors throughout the day to help them?
That's a really good question. And I find the starting point is about being with a practice. And we opened the interview was talking about overwhelm, and I feel personally that this society that we live in, right from the word go, it's structured, and it sometimes feels that being in the moment and I must do, I should do, it can be quite difficult for people to face sitting still, perhaps, or watching their breath if they're feeling anxious through pain or discomfort because they haven't slept well or not eaten well for a long time because of how their bodies are reacting. These are resisted moments of resistance where mindfulness can help. It's not the cure, but it's another, I mentioned to clients, it's a tool in your toolbox. So if we imagine in the life of a person with MS, is that their life, they are the expert in the relating to the other person and suggesting a mindfulness practice. But the nourishment and the nurturing of a practice is a tool to the toolbox to help them best cope. And today, more than ever, we're learning how to cope quite quickly.
Absolutely. And I think perhaps if we go with the theory behind the meditation and mindfulness, perhaps it's not for everyone, but, anybody who breathes can meditate. Unless you have some sort of a lung disorder, you probably shouldn't be doing the breathing meditation. And I think there are some conditions, mental health conditions, that PTSD and, that can actually induce more feelings and emotions whilst people are practicing the meditation and mindfulness. But, it's something that you have to explore yourself and see how it feels on your body. And it's a very powerful and well recognized, and there's evolving, emerging research behind that meditation and mindfulness, which we sometimes mix these two things together. I guess, mindfulness is more broader sort of definition, and meditation is a part of the mindfulness. So I guess that the meditation and mindfulness for some people not necessarily is okay. And I think that the evidence is emerging that it's a very powerful tool to manage the depression and relapses of the depression. And as we know, people with MS, every 1 in 3 people, I would say, they do suffer with emotional problems, whether it's depression or an anxiety, or both. And it's very prevalent and common, it's real in this particular condition. So I think learning this technique and preventing yourself from having relapses of depression is something that every other person should pursue. So how to start and when to start the practice of the mindfulness?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it leads neatly on to making a decision about yourself and getting to know your medical history, and trying to ask yourself the question as to what it is you would like to happen by using mindfulness. I think finding a teacher is a good starting point, and it doesn't have to be online as it is right now during lockdown, but as and when society changes, there'll be opportunities to do face-to-face teachings, drop-in services. So there's the use of a teacher is a really, really helpful way to begin, because as we know, the sense of community and connecting with another person, be it in a group or singly, one-to-one, can help build up greater resilience in keeping practices there for a longer period of time. When to start? That's a really good question. I suppose if I was to use personal history on that one, I felt that in my search for a greater way of being with my health and wanting to put down the heavier emotional stuff that I was carrying, I realized that my breath was tight and my chest was where I needed to send some love and compassion. And I searched through apps, which for me personally didn't work. And then I worked in the teaching realm and found a teacher. And I feel that the how and when is a really individual question. But I would say by attuning to your curiosity, or maybe even your creativity within yourself, there might be, do you know what? I'm going to try something different. And then I feel that those would be a good place to start.
Absolutely. I sort of recommend for people to start when they feel okay to start with. I guess it's very difficult to collect yourself and find this internal strength to be present in the moment if you are overwhelmed by the stress in your life. And I think once you learn this technique whilst you're feeling good, whilst you're feeling happy, perhaps when, it's very difficult to avoid this stressful situation. It's everywhere. It's within us. We're always going to be exposed by the stress around us. But once you learn this technique whilst you're feeling okay, well, you probably will know how to build up that over the time. And when the stressful situation kicks in, you will find that internal strength because you have been working towards that goal for a period of time. And the longer you're doing the meditation and mindfulness practice, the better you become. And according to the research, only after 8 weeks of continuous practice of meditation and mindfulness, people see the difference. And also it's been recorded on the functional MRI scan that's the crucial time that we actually see the changes within the brain structure. We see some activity changes, which is based on the neuroplasticity, and the size of amygdala, which is a limbic part of the limbic system, also changes in size. But it has to be a continuous practice. It's not going to nourish your body and soul and mind if you do on once a month this practice. It has to become like going to gym, which is something that not many people can tolerate. And it doesn't feel okay when you start exercising. You have to make an effort. This is from my own experience.
True.
Yeah, so it doesn't feel like it's something so natural. And exactly the same with the meditation and mindfulness. It's definitely not a nice sort of feeling that when you start, because you have to put a lot of energy and effort to start with. But then it becomes a second nature and becomes so you. I remember myself, if I stop meditating and practicing mindfulness, I can feel on my body, my stress level goes up, I'm restless, my thinking processes are becoming messy, it does diminish my performance at work. So it's something that requires a bit of a work, like, brain is like a muscle, that you have to train to build the capacity, to build the resilience to any life stresses, any circumstances that are not more or less expected or unexpected. So what is your, Matthew, what is your key message to people with MS and their families and carers and perhaps MS specialists, neurologists, nurses and therapists? How they could build up their own resilience and engage with the activities in their life? How to increase the performance on the daily basis? What would you recommend for people living with a chronic condition or looking after the chronic condition?
This is a question that's very close to my heart, and it is what's inspired the meditation, which we'll do shortly. I think for me, this comes down to compassion for oneself. And in the time of difficulty through pain, frustration, and the adversity of being in society with MS, that time to be with oneself, even if it's 3 breaths, even if it's 60 seconds, or, as we all like to feel, just as we're drifting off to sleep, that wonderful, nourishing moment. That's what the starting point looks like. And I feel that, as you mentioned, when you're ready and it feels right within yourself, be it your body is telling you, or your mind, or both, or within your inner self, you have this, maybe today's the day I do something different. Those are the moments where I would advise a client to look within, and building up an awareness of those that internal dialogue is very much splitting away the same thought patterns or the same habits that we have and trying something different. So to answer your question, is to come back and allow yourself time, even if it's 60 seconds, just time to engage, to begin a practice. And the best part is that when you begin, you can begin over and over, but it is a starting point that we need, and that will help to build resilience and also to nourish the idea of doing other activities in life, living more fully and being more settled and balanced, which I think mindfulness helps very much to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when I first discovered mindfulness, it was this fact that knowing that it's so good to be in your own body, although it may be tingly, it may be painful, you may have some other sensations and feelings inside, but it's nothing more nourishing and safer than to actually be inside you, like a cave. I imagine.
Absolutely.
Quite often, that I got my own little bubble in my cave that I can hide myself, just spend that time for me and do nothing. Which at the beginning it's a challenge, but it becomes easier and easier as the time goes on. So amazing. So Matthew, if you're ready and whenever you're ready, I think 20 minutes of the guided imaginary mountain meditation would be something that I'm very much looking forward and would like to experience again. What I have already done weeks ago before we actually met. So I think it's an opportunity for all MS specialists and people living with MS, to experience that journey that nourishes our souls and bodies and thinking and processes that we can at least imagine that we are going on the journey. And I'm going to, ask you just to take me through, and everyone else who's listening to this podcast, whenever it feels okay to do, Matthew. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, welcome along to this guided meditation. And I do thank you for spending time listening and being in this space. It's going to be roughly 20 minutes. So I invite you to find a place of comfort. You don't have to be sat up in specific pose. You could be laid down. You can be wherever you want to be that's comfortable. Maybe grab yourself a blanket. Just be with you for the next 20 minutes. Feel into the space that you're sat into or laid on, and allow the earth to hold you. And whatever you're carrying for today, just gently put it down. It'll be there when you come back. And if you will, follow my voice as we head off on this adventure together. And if it's okay with you, I invite you to shut your eyes. And if that isn't okay, then just avert your gaze to the floor or a space nearby. Imagine that there's a golden thread pulling at the crown of your head. Allow the space between each vertebrae to separate. Imagining a line from the ear through the shoulder and into the hip, so there's balance in your upper body if you're sat upright. Or a nice line of symmetry down the side of your body, so nothing's pinched or pulled, or there's pressure on your body. The aim here is to find a relaxed state of being. And the first stage of finding a relaxed state of being is to follow our breath. Gently, without forcing or pulling the breath in and out. It's entirely up to you how you take in your breath in the inhalation and how you allow your breath to leave your body in the exhalation. You may choose to do it through the nose and the mouth, or one or the other. Whatever is right for you is okay. And before we head off on this adventure, there is no right or wrong. If you need to fidget, move, reset yourself, that's okay. And if any thoughts come up, that's okay too. Imagine those thoughts as white fluffy clouds. And if we were to allow our hands to pass through a white fluffy cloud, that would be similar to the thoughts that come into our minds whilst we're in this practice. Just let the thoughts come and go and allow them to pass by gently and with softness. We're going to take a trip, you and I invite you to find a bag or a suitcase or a holder in your environment that you're in right now. On this trip, I ask you to take 3 things. Place 3 items in your bag, suitcase or holder as we prepare to go off on this trip. And as you're doing this, pay attention to what's happened to your breath, what's happened to your mind and your body. What differences can you feel within you right now? If you're ready with those 3 things inside your bag, suitcase or holder, we're going to head off now. This journey is from your place wherever you are in the world. We're going to head off to a hillside or a mountain that you may have visited, seen or visualized in your own mind. But you're leaving the place where you are with the bag, holder or suitcase as it comes with you. How are you right now? We've arrived at the base of the hill on the mountainside. And here in the United Kingdom, it's a chilly late autumn evening. And the time that we're going to spend on this adventure is one whole year. 4 seasons. If you're ready, carrying your bag, holder or suitcase, we're going to gently, with softness, with no hurrying up happening within you, begin our walk. Feeling the heel touch the floor, the toes touch the floor. Feeling the earth beneath you. Maybe we're walking over gravel. We may have already started on the hillside, mountainside, squelching in wet autumnal mud, or it might be a different season in your mind. Whatever's happening for you, that's okay. If your mind has wandered, just come back to the breath to ground yourself with this meditation. We're walking gently, softly. And as we are walking, have a look around. What can you see? What can you feel against your skin, hair, ears, or any part of you that's uncovered? Stop a moment. Have a look around 360 degrees. Connect with nature. What are you feeling within you right now? We're going to carry on walking right now. Hold that feeling deep within. You are one with nature out on this hill or mountainside with no time constraints. You are here in the now. There's a spot that you found that you're particularly happy in. I invite you to stand or sit in this space. Your bag, holder or suitcase is beside you. Take off your shoes so you can get comfortable. Feel nature squelching against your bare skin. As it would be here, it would be cold. Feeling into the body, letting go of being and doing in any other capacity than just to experience this visualization of being on the mountainside or the hillside, feeling nature around you. As we move from autumn into winter, the plant life, the animals that have come accustomed to you being stood here, are heading off to their deep sleep. The dormancy of winter, although it's technically not, is active. But as we look around, the colours are different, the smells are different, we feel different. The months are rolling by. And the winter is being cold. You felt snow against your bare skin. You felt the grass and the mud harden. But you are settled on this hillside or mountainside. What can you see that's changed within you through these 2 seasons, knowing that we've got 2 more to come? What's happening within your mind and body right now? As the earth, the cosmos, changes the trajectory of earth, the spring begins to come. You hear different things, you smell, maybe scents around you. You see the young of the wildlife around you as you stand or sit here watching the change of nature, the change of you. There's warmth in the day, there's warmth in the ground. As we walk up now, spring becomes summer. You can feel the day change. The nights become longer. And the wildlife flourishing around you. What's happening within you right now? How far have you travelled in this short period of time? As you travel higher and closer to the top of your hillside or mountain, paying attention to the trust that's happening within you. Being patient for the seasons to change. Being one with yourself without any of the daily baggage that we carry other than your suitcase, holder, or bag. What did you bring? Who are you right now? Where are you right now? The day is bright, and as we get closer to the top of our hillside, the mountain, you're aware that the summer's passing into autumn. You can see the bronzing of the leaves, the mulch beneath your feet starting to become heavy with the rainfall that's come and gone. But you know autumn is coming soon. Being in the here and now, you can pay attention to how nature has changed. And maybe how you have too. Travelling further up, the act of non-judgment. The thoughts that come, the feelings that we go through, the sensations that happen in each of us as individuals. It's all but impossible to not judge. But the game and the play, the visualization, as this practice has proven, is about offering compassion, wisdom, and kindness for oneself in the time that you allow you to be you, in whatever capacity that might be for today, as you're listening to this meditation. We're at the top now. I invite you to stand here, just as the last warm days of autumn are leaving. Pay attention to the views that you can see, 360 degrees, the nature that's around you. And my friends, breathe deeply, breathe fully. This is your time, on top of this hillside or mountain. Breathe deeply, breathe fully, and nourish you. It's time to head back. Don't forget your bag, suitcase or holdall. But before we head down the hillside and mountainside, there's a choice that you can make. There's a toboggan waiting for you. Playful way to travel back down. Or you can gently meander back down the way that you've come. Or perhaps you may want to stay here forevermore. It's entirely up to you. But before we head off, give yourself that hug, that moment of kindness and gratitude for being you. You are truly amazing. You are a wonderful human being. And I thank you for traveling with me on this short meditation.
This is magic, Matthew.
You're more than welcome.
It's absolutely stunning. I think it's a very, very, very therapeutic, very uplifting, and I could listen all day long. It elicits this internal smile, and I think most of the people will respond in a very similar way. So thank you very much.
Oh, you're more than welcome, and I'm glad that you enjoyed the meditation, and as I did do the time with you, and thank you for all the wonderful work that you do.
Thank you.
And yeah, it's been a wonderful time.
Yes, I would like to finish with some few words. If you know your true self as the ocean with never-ending but changing waves which mirror your emotions, behaviors, feelings, personality, mood, you will be okay and not afraid. But if you forget you are the ocean with the waves on the surface, you will be seasick every single day. Bringing mindfulness and compassion into your daily living is important for overall well-being. So hey you, if you feel you benefited from this conversation and guided meditation, leave your comments below and share with other people that you may think they would benefit. So thanks for listening. There will be so many other topics to come and follow. So stay safe, tune in, and be well. Thank you very much. Thank you, Matthew, for joining me today.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.